So in a previous video, we talked about commands that a climber might give the belayer on top rope. And I want to sort of expand on that in this video by talking about commands that a climber might give a belayer. A one-eyed climber might give a belayer when lead climbing. So one of the first things that can happen is the climber's moving up the wall and the rope becomes too tight. So the climber can't keep climbing, or maybe the climber can't clip. And at this point, they're going to call down to the belayer for slack. So you can just say slack as a climber, and your belayer can give you more slack and allow you to keep going. As a belayer, if you feel a tug on the rope, that's a good indicator that you need to give your climber more slack. Another important point on this, if a climber is moving up and the rope feels too tight and they call for slack, the belayer might realize that there's already slack in the system, in which case there's an indication that maybe the rope is caught on something. Maybe it's caught on a hold or it's pinched between two carabiners, and the belayer should call up to the climber, hey, I think the rope is stuck on something, rather than just giving them more slack. Because if the rope becomes unstuck and the belayer gives them even more slack, then the climber's going to fall maybe twice as far, depending on how much extra slack the belayer gives out. So another thing that a climber might want to call out is watch me. And so this is where the climbers at a particularly difficult part of the climb, maybe it's like a crux section, and maybe they're above their quick draw and they're getting a little freaked out. And watch me is a signal to the belayer that, hey, I might fall here, so just pay careful attention. Be ready to catch a fall. Now the belayer should be ready anyways, whether or not the climber says watch me or falling. Belayer should always be ready to catch a fall, but it is a good signal to the belayer, hey, pay extra careful attention. I might fall here, just so you know. Kind of helps avoid catching the belayer by surprise. It's always better, usually always better, for the belayer to be ready and aware that the climber might fall. And so finally, this last command, this is one where I would say the terminology is not commonly known. So definitely talk with your climbing partners about this command, or just kind of come up with a word or phrase that works for you. But that command is up rope. That's kind of the standard command. And so up rope, I'm going to kind of show you here. Up rope is a command that a climber gives to the belayer when there's too much slack in the system. So maybe the climber is moving up and they look down and they see this giant pool of slack on the ground. And the climber starts freaking out and calls up rope. That means, hey, belayer, there's way too much slack in the system. Please take it out, but don't pull me tight, okay? So this is different from take. If I were to take here, I might actually pull the climber off the wall and cause them to fall. Versus up rope, hey, there's too much slack in the system. Please try to take some of that out. And now, right, there's still just enough slack in the system for the climber to keep going, but the climber feels better and knows that if they fall, they're not going to take a huge whipper.